How high am I? I won't be sober till the 4th of July. Move all the buildings and let me by. I'm high as the sky. And I heard that, I said, wow, that's fun. And that really got me hooked on that kind of music. I don't know if you call it jazz, whatever it was, I liked it.
I'm Troy Andrews, but most people know me as Trombone Shorty. Like most musicians, I'm also a music fan. And as a fan, I love the photographs that capture and preserve the process of making music. We've all seen a lot of great photographs of rock, blues, R&B, and country, but it started with jazz. Jazz and photography grew up together in the early 20th century. As photography became an art, photographers turned to the charismatic world of the big bands and the soloists. They went from the huge dance halls to the cramped clubs, seen through a haze of cigarette smoke under the spotlight. And no one captured the world of jazz, the world of music, better than Herman Leonard. Herman was born in 1923 in Allentown, Pennsylvania. His preteen interest in photography was soon matched by his love of jazz. In 1949, these passions brought him to New York, the jazz capital of the world. Herman set up shop in Greenwich Village at the age of 26, and he began to photograph the greatest artists in their heyday, from the maestro Duke Ellington, to the first lady of song Ella Fitzgerald, to the Bird, Charlie Parker, to the long, tall tenor sax genius Dexter Gordon.
I started by photographing business executives doing portraits a la carte. That's all I could do. And then at night, when I had free time, I'd go to the jazz clubs. I got to know the owner of the club, and I said, I'll give you prints if you let me shoot during rehearsals. And that's what opened the door for me to do a lot like this was done during a rehearsal in 1948. And I would give prints to the musicians, and that's how I endeared myself, so to speak, to them and became friendly with them. My best friend, or most joyful friend, was Dizzy Gillespie.
You've seen these pictures. Practically everyone has. They're iconic. They're classic. If you only remember one picture of Count Basie or Sarah Vaughan, I'll bet it was taken by Herman Leonard.
Well, it was 1987. He was 65 years old. He was broke. He had a family to take care of and hadn't worked in about 7 years. So he was at a loss of what to do, and I remember him going through the dusty boxes of negatives, spending weeks up all night printing, making a portfolio, and then he went around London to the galleries and tried to get some interest and was repeatedly rejected. I remember him saying, somebody's got to want to see these images. And, you know, it happened because the gallery in Notting Hill did an exhibition, and it sort of relaunched his career. Moving back to the States was a big move for him. He wanted to come back home and share these images with America, since it's American music history. He started shooting music again and reconnecting with a lot of his old friends, a lot of the artists from those days.
In 1991, his legacy is sure. Herman relocated to New Orleans to chronicle my city's burgeoning jazz renaissance. That's where I met him. In fact, he took photographs of me when I was 13 and just starting out. Herman was in his 70s, but he was still lively and gracious, and throughout the decade, he continued to mount exhibits of his work and gathered honors and awards around the globe. Then in 2005, Hurricane Katrina arrived. Katrina destroyed much of New Orleans, including Herman Leonard's home and studio, and his archive of 8,000 handmade photographic prints.
My then wonderful, wonderful assistant, Jenny Baggart, made arrangements with the Ogden Museum for space in their vault on the 5th floor. And that's where we put the negatives. But I couldn't get out my prints. The darkroom was gone, all the finishing stuff was gone. All right, that's material. But I really hated to lose those prints because I put my heart into making these prints.
When we heard the news that the whole city was underwater, he sat with his head in his hands for about 2 hours and didn't say anything. And I think that's when he realized he had lost everything. He had lost his life's work, at 82 years old.
Herman moved out to California, and I contacted him to see if I could be of any service to him. I felt I knew his catalog so well, and I knew the urgency of archiving preservation, as he just turned up with his negatives from that loss. And I was aware of the Grammy Foundation grant program for a long time, their generosity in helping artists and also preservation for visual jazz as well. So we started the process of getting Herman a grant proposal for archiving and preservation.
We got a grant from the Grammy Foundation to digitalize all of my negatives. And in the course of this, we're coming across images that I had never completely forgot about or didn't even realize I'd shot.
This gave us an opportunity to look at the entire catalog, and there's so much there. And I think he enjoyed revisiting those old friends. The graciousness and the generosity of the Grammy Foundation grant program is unsurpassed.
And that is the wonderful thing that's happened to me, is this grant that the Grammy gave us.
It was like a new lease on life for him. He couldn't wait to get started. He was very eager to throw himself into it. And he spent the last 2 years of his life archiving and rediscovering images, and he was like a little kid again. It was wonderful to see. I don't want his work to be forgotten. His passion for the people, the music, photography. I would like his work to be seen in museums and young people to learn from what he learned in photography.
Herman Leonard's work is an invaluable testament to the American music scene spanning 7 decades, and it exists today only because the Grammy Foundation was there to help preserve it for the admiration, enjoyment, and education of generations to come.